So let's start off with you. Are you from Madison?
I grew up in Madison. I'm originally from Mexico City. Currently live in Milwaukee.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you some questions about evolution. Do you agree with the theory of evolution?
I do agree with the theory of evolution, yes.
What do you consider to be the best empirical evidence in favor of evolution?
Sure. Empirical evidence, I think it could be one, genetics, two, I would say fossil evidence, fossil records.
Yeah, those are common answers. So oftentimes people would say, for example, well, what about viruses? The fact that viruses change, or bacteria,
Sure.
they
Yeah.
change, that sort of thing.
Those two are very valid as well, yes.
Okay. Actually, the problem with them is that the changes that they make are limited to their own kind. So, for example, viruses always remain viruses. Bacteria always remains bacteria. It never actually evolves into something else.
Yeah.
And these are organisms that are scientifically studied probably more than anything else, and they reproduce so rapidly.
Those are very valid points. I guess in that sense, it does take a long time for these changes to occur. I mean, I'm of the understanding that the Earth is what I believe 4.6 billion years old, and
Yes, that's what the conventional.
yeah, and I mean, given the time that they have, I mean, we've only been studying these organisms. I mean, some of the long-running experiments that, for example, that we know about are maybe less than 100 years old. And I mean, compared to, say, I mean, from what we know, life only started maybe about 3.4 billion years ago.
No, that's about accurate according to what the conventional ideas are regarding dating.
I mean, 100 years compared to 3 billion years is a tiny fraction. So I would say, that's a valid point to say to like counter evolution, but given the time, the time frames, I don't know how.
Okay, now don't you think? Okay, so evolutionists or people that promote evolution, they're very confident, and they kind of promote it in a way to say, well, evolution is a fact and that it's incontrovertible. And I would say it's not a fact, and it is very, very speculative from my point of view. Let me give you an example, okay? So I asked you, what do you consider to be the best empirical evidence in favor of evolution? I could provide, not to brag, but I could provide a dozen examples of empirical evidence in favor of creation and design. For example, do you think that design exists? Does human design exist?
No, I don't think so. No.
So the jacket you're wearing was not designed?
I mean, somebody designed it, but human design, sure. I mean, I think that is something that exists, sure. But humans being design, I mean, unless it's through, I guess we have the ability to now design humans, but it's not very ethical, I guess, to a sense, yeah.
Well, you're getting ahead of me, but my point is the fact that humans design things. We look around, you can see, well, there's streets here, there's buildings, our cell phones, our clothing, glasses that we're wearing.
Design, sure. I understand.
So design exists. We cannot deny that design exists. In fact, even birds, they make nests. So animals can design.
Different animals, different things have the ability to design. Yeah, even microorganisms, you could even say. I mean, even though they have a limited capacity in what they can do, but yeah, they can also design. Yeah.
All right. So then, when we look at the whole idea of let's say just the simple cell. How about the so-called simple cell, like bacteria? Have you studied enough bacteria?
I think I have. Yeah. I mean, I understand what I can at least picture somewhat. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the difference between prokaryote cells and eukaryotic cells?
I've heard the terms. I vaguely remember. Sure.
Okay, so prokaryotes are the simpler form, and there's a variety of them. Bacteria is one example. But then eukaryotic cells are the kind of cells that are made up in our bodies, and they're the ones where the DNA is wrapped up in the nucleus,
Okay.
and it has a variety of organelles.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm up, yeah.
So my point is now we look at something like a eukaryotic cell, and you go, now, do you think that eukaryotic cells, the kind of cells that's in our bodies, do you think that they're complex?
Yeah, I mean they're complex. Yeah, yeah.
And then do you think that they also fit a particular pattern? In other words, are they recognizable?
I would say so. Yes, we can recognize them. You know, as you were stating before, you know, we can recognize the difference between a eukaryotic cell and a prokaryote. Prokaryote, yeah.
As well as the organelles are also
Sure, yeah,
recognizable.
that's something. Yeah.
So another example is just something out there in the world is a nickel. You take a nickel and you have Thomas Jefferson on one side and you have the picture of Monticello on the other side. You have words, "In God We Trust." All of that is both highly complex and highly specified. And there's people like Bill Gates have said that DNA is the most complex form of programming that exists, far more than anything that humans have ever devised. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. I have not heard. I mean, I'm sure this is something that he might have said. Yes.
And he's not a creationist. I'm a creationist. I'm a biblical creationist. So we're just talking about one area, and that is the area of design. One we were talking about, well, what is empirical evidence in favor of God? And I would say design is that just as we see human design, so we see in life's organisms such complexity and specificity, meaning the kinds of things where it's a recognizable pattern. And so William Dembski is a mathematician. He came up with this kind of a formula in that he said that when we see something that's both highly specified and highly complex, we can have high probability that it was designed. And so that's where I'm getting those two ideas. So say, for example, so we talked about the nickel. The nickel has, it's a recognizable face. It has words, "In God We Trust," and liberty, and
Sure.
other things of that.
I think if we have a common idea of what the nickel is, so you and both I know, what a nickel, we can recognize it. Sure. Yeah.
Another example would be Mount Rushmore. So it's a recognizable rock versus another rock